Hi, I'm Chef Mark with the Scott Fan Line. Today we're presenting to you the front of the house dining room selling tools. We're excited to have with us a dining room specialist, front of the house specialist from Whiskers Steakhouse, Michael. Michael, nice to have you here today. It's great to have you on our show. I think it's important that servers realize how exciting a menu is. It's a marketing tool for the chef, and too often it's a list of items that the server may or may not know about, some of the specialties that the chef has put together. Tell us what you think is important about understanding the menu for a server.
Well, knowledge is power for sure. And being able to communicate as much as you can about a dish to a guest is extremely important. Especially nowadays, people are very interested in the sourcing of their ingredients, for example. If we have serving a caprese salad and we're serving fresh heirloom tomatoes with fresh buffalo mozzarella over microgreens from a local organic farm, all those details about where those ingredients came from are very important. The guests nowadays are looking for that sort of thing. So knowing that stuff ahead of time, the more you know about your dish and more you're able to communicate that to your guests, it just makes everything work so much better. It makes it taste better having the guests know that stuff.
And that's very popular with the local farm movement, and they want to know what farmers you're using with cheeses and dairy, and that's very exciting. And that's great what you said about that. Guests are really tuned into where food comes from today, and the server needs to be involved in that as well.
Absolutely.
They said that a customer has 109 seconds to peruse a menu. What are some of the common cooking methods on a menu that a server should know based on their menu? Your menu at your operation certainly has cooks things differently. What should a server know about cooking methods?
Well, the more you know about cooking as a server, the better you're going to be at your job. One thing that we run into at Ruth's Chris fairly often is people are under the impression that we grill our steaks. So you need to make sure that they're aware that they're broiled instead. We use custom-built 1,800-degree broilers. So if they're expecting a steak to come out with grill marks, you want to preempt that disappointment. Let them know what to expect before it comes out. The more you're able to describe the dish to the guests beforehand, the better you're able to preempt any sort of disappointment. And they know what they're in for, and they know what to expect.
So can you customize dishes for guests as they come into your restaurant? And is that something that you want to encourage, or something you always want to take care of?
Well, that depends on who's working in the kitchen that night, how far you want to get customized. It's important to go over some different options with the chef beforehand. For example, if you're doing a veal chop with a gorgonzola crust special, it's important to know and discuss with the chef, chef, I might get a guest later on tonight that loves the concept of the veal chop, but the gorgonzola really turns them off. Is there any way we can do a Parmesan crust or maybe just no cheese whatsoever, do a little red wine demi-glaze, for example. Knowing what some of those options are beforehand is going to make it a lot easier. You don't want to be going in the back of the kitchen at 7:30 and asking the chef, hey, what else can we do with this veal chop? You don't necessarily want to be offering all those customizations to people. You don't want the chef to have to make his special 10 different ways. He's not going to like you very much for that. But knowing what a couple options are beforehand is very important.
That's great. One thing that's important for any server is the upselling skill or technique. Can you tell us when to upsell, when it's appropriate, specials, sides, sauces?
Well, it's important to really get to know your guest. Try to engage with them as much as you can. Know what they're leaning towards. You don't want to sound like you're just trying to push more and more onto the guests and trying to get every last dollar out of them. But it is important to get a feel for what they might like. Again, with that crust example, if you overhear during appetizer course that they're a big fan of cheese, if they get a tomato and an onion salad with blue cheese crumbles on it, you could offer the blue cheese crust on their steak. That's simple enough, and just paying attention to those little details is going to make that sort of thing go a lot smoother.
That's great. It's all about customer satisfaction in the end, right?
Absolutely.
I noticed some restaurants now have a disclaimer on the bottom discussing allergens. How important is that to you and a server to know about allergens for today's customer?
Well, it's very important, and unfortunately, not all guests communicate that with you as well as they could. If they mention it once, you have to make sure that you're consistent throughout every course. If they mention they have a gluten allergy with their appetizer course, you're going to want to make sure you remember that for when they order their entree and their dessert, and just follow that all the way through. And another thing that's important to talk with the chef beforehand. getting back to that veal chop with gorgonzola example, are there breadcrumbs in that gorgonzola crust? That's important to know. Again, with the gluten allergy, breadcrumbs are going to be a no-no. So we'll just do the straight gorgonzola crust as long as the chef sounds good with that.
I think sometimes a server may ask a guest how they want their meat cooked, and how would a server describe doneness of meats? And if someone says, I want it medium well, what would a server say to someone who orders a medium well steak at your restaurant?
Well, at our restaurant, we describe medium well as just slightly pink in the middle. So it's very important that whenever a guest orders something, you repeat it back to them and describe it. Somebody says medium rare, you say it's warm and red in the center. A lot of times they'll be like, ooh, I don't like the sound of red, how about medium? Or, you know, somewhere between medium rare and medium. So making sure you're able to describe rare is going to be cool and red in the middle. Medium rare is warm and red. Medium is going to be pink and hot. Medium well, slightly pink. Well done, no pink. At least it's not supposed to have any pink. I know it hurts a lot of chef's feelings to cook it that way, but that's how it's supposed to be done.
Well, that's about guest satisfaction in the end. Do you go back and ask the guests how the meat was cooked? Some places do. Is that a practice of yours?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, our rule is within 2 bites or 2 minutes. Get back there to make sure it's perfect. And I think it's important to let the guests know that I'm going to be coming back. So if they cut into it in that first bite, they don't have to get up and start looking for me. They know I'm coming right back. And if we don't get it right, we're going to fix it.
I think your restaurant is very lucky to have you as a server coach, front of house specialist. And it's great what you said to us today, and we really appreciate it. Any last comments you want to make about dining room service in front of the house and the guest experience before we go?
Well, you know, it's all about trying to make the guest feel like this is a unique dish, and they want to experience something that they're not going to have again. They've never had before, and you have to communicate that, and then the kitchen has to execute it. But whenever everyone's able to do that, everyone leaves happy.
Well, that's great words of wisdom, Michael. Thank you for joining us today for front of the house dining room service, and look forward to seeing you again.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
All right.
Thank you.